What's going on, guys? Today I want to talk about 10 films that we need on Blu-ray. Now this is specifically Region A, the United States. I made sure to not include any films that have region-free formats in terms of the imports, but these are going to be 10 movies that we really need on Blu-ray. So we're not even talking about 4K releases. These are just solely Blu-rays that don't exist. They either have DVD runs or they're just available on streaming, if at that. Now these movies are not going to be ranked on my preference. They're going to be more so ranked based on the severity of how much they need a Blu-ray run, given either popularity or lack thereof accessibility to these movies. So let's dive right in to number 10, which is La Trau. Now, La Trau I do own on Blu-ray. Now this is a region import. This is from France. It is region B locked. So the only way to actually see this movie is if you have a region-free kind of unlocked Blu-ray player, which I did dish out the money to actually own, because as physical media collectors, there's many instances where we don't have proper US releases. So I did have to resort to a locked copy of this. For anyone that doesn't have a player, this is where this becomes an issue, because this was part of the Criterion collection on DVD, but one of those titles that never got ported over onto the Blu-ray. And we're kind of just stuck here with either a DVD or you having to resort to buy a locked title from France. I'm glad I'm able to own this film because it's one of my favorite French films of all time, and also one of the best prison escape films ever made. So I am glad I have some way of accessing it, but that's not going to be for everybody. So Criterion would be really nice for them to get a hold of this title again and release it on Blu-ray. 4K would be even better, but right now the options are limited, so that's why I put it in as number 10. At number 9 is my favorite film from 2021, Annette. This is a film much like La Trau. It does have an import. There's a UK import of this. It's ridiculously overpriced. It is region locked as well, so does not give this movie a whole lot of access as well. It is available on Amazon Prime, but it's not one of those movies that ended up in the Criterion collection or picked up by any label. So it's just stuck there on streaming. And if you do want to own a Region B copy, you do have to dish out the money for the movie and the shipping, and that gets a little bit pricey. Something I might eventually pick up if there is no proper release, but another title that's a little frustrating not to have a proper US release, because we have streaming services, and I guess that means we don't have to have physical media. Number 8 is an anime film, Ni no Kuni. This is available only on Netflix. It never had a physical media run in the United States. I'm not even entirely sure if there's a DVD of this, and the only way to own it on physical media is if you purchase the Japanese import, which is of course region locked, and you'd be dishing out about $100 to get some collector's edition of that, and it's pretty difficult to get. No way of owning this movie on physical media, only available on Netflix. I think it's a really good anime that's a bit underrated. Not a whole lot of people talk about it. It is based on the video game. I've never played the video game, but as a film, as a standalone, it works very well. A film I would really like to own, but can't do so because there's no proper release. At number 7 is The Tragedy of Macbeth. This was my second favorite film in 2021. Came out on Apple TV Plus. I got to see it in theaters, of course, but one of those instances where Apple TV Plus just doesn't do physical media. So anything that ever comes out on that streaming platform, unless it's magically picked up by Criterion or some other label, it's just not going to get that release. It's a film that I really enjoyed, from the cinematography, from the performances, and its vision. And unfortunately, I can't own it on physical media because it doesn't exist. There's no import of this available either. I've seen a bunch of bootlegs on eBay from China. That's really it. There's no import of this. There's no DVD. Obviously, you can watch it online. I'm sure there's some options to rent it or buy it from other various platforms like Vudu, but there's no real way of owning this movie. So kind of unfortunate. I hope Criterion picks it up one of these days. It's a worthy title. It definitely should be on Blu-ray, if not even 4K. Number 6 is one of my favorite films of 2020, and that is Pieces of a Woman. This came out the same year as Sound of Metal, and I go back and forth between the two, which one is my favorite, but not to confuse this film with Promising Young Woman, because that also came out the same year. Pieces of a Woman is a film starring Vanessa Kirby. It did get some award buzz that year, but a film that was kind of overshadowed by bigger titles and drama starring Shia LaBeouf that kind of knocked that out of contention. It did get nominated for Best Actress with Vanessa Kirby in the Academy Awards, which leads me to saying the only way of owning this movie on physical media is if you get a hold of the Oscar screener, which someone is selling on eBay currently for about $300. Not sure if that screener is legally able to be sold, but you can get a hold of it. But that is really the only way to actually attain that movie on physical media. Otherwise, Netflix is your only bet to watch that film. So another situation where you cannot own this movie on physical media, which is a shame because it's a really powerful movie. It's interesting because 2020 was a year where we struggled to get a lot of movies because of the pandemic, and a lot of movies were being released on physical media. It kind of had this resurgence for a little bit. And this was just not one of those movies that ended up getting a Blu-ray run. I'm very thankful that Sound of Metal did get a Blu-ray run thanks to Criterion. Pieces of a Woman, much like in the Oscars, kind of got swept under the rug there. Number 5 is a bigger title that I wasn't actually expecting to make it on this list, and that is Borat. This is a film that was very popular when it came out. To this day, I still hear people quoting it. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time, as offensive as it may be. The amount of times I've seen it, like it is not diminished in value for me. It's been a while since I have seen it though, but I remember enjoying it the numerous times I've seen it. I do own it on DVD, but it would have been really nice to own this on Blu-ray. It did have a sequel in 2020 that also didn't have a physical media run. It is available on Disney Plus, and that is currently the only way to actually see this film. There might be ways to rent it as well, but no physical media run. There is a German import available. Sadly, again, it is Region B locked, so we have never had a proper US run of this film. 2006 is the year that it came out, so it was this kind of transition period between DVD and Blu-ray. Blu-ray was just coming out. So it was a title that was missed and no one ever came back to look at it. Speaking of comedy, speaking of Disney Plus, at number 4 is Idiocracy. This is one of my favorite comedies of all time. Does not have a physical media run in the United States as well, or there's no import of this either. Like, this is just very difficult to get a hold of this. Only way you can see it is on DVD, on Disney Plus. You can rent it or buy it on Vudu. Again, another film from 2006 that came out that never got that proper release. It's a film that I think has aged pretty well. I don't know how much the raunchy humor, if it still works. I haven't seen it in a while. I remember a couple of years ago I wanted to rent the film, and that wasn't even an option. At the time, you could only buy it, I think, for $20 digitally. Now you do have an ability to rent it, and you have Disney Plus, but still no physical media run. Hopefully, at some point that changes. And number 3 is a newer title, but with the director and the actors that are attached to this, I thought this was an instant Blu-ray release, but we don't have a Blu-ray run of this, and that is Killers of the Flower Moon, my favorite film from last year. It was nominated at the Academy Awards. It's covering an important subject matter, and much like that subject matter, that has been washed away through America's past. And that's what's happening with this movie. It's kind of being buried on Apple TV and no physical media run. There's no import of this available anywhere. You can find bootlegs from China on eBay, and that's about the extent this movie goes. It's been out for a good amount of time for it to get a Blu-ray run. It doesn't seem like Apple is letting go. It'd be really nice for Criterion or some of these other smaller labels to pick it up, but for right now, the streaming service is the only way to get a hold of this film. And number 2 is Death of a Cyclist. This is a 1955 film directed by Javier Bardem's uncle, Juan Antonio Bardem. And it did have a DVD run, but much like La Trau, never got upgraded to Blu-ray. And here we are now, stuck with no Blu-ray in the United States and no Blu-ray really in general. I almost did purchase a Spanish import of this, but as soon as I purchased it, I knew it was region B locked, which I was like, all right, that's all right. I have my region free player. I could see this movie. Then I realized that there's no subtitles available and the movie is in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. So as soon as I bought it, like 15 minutes later, I canceled the order because there's no way of watching this movie unless you know Spanish. So the only way to really see the movie is on DVD. You can rent or buy the movie on YouTube TV, but those are the only methods of actually seeing this film, and it is a lesser known title that I wish would get more attention because it is a really great movie. It definitely, if you're a fan of Alfred Hitchcock's work, it does lean in towards that territory. It's a very great thriller, but unfortunately doesn't have a proper Blu-ray release, which means the movie is just going to get forgotten over time if we don't get it, because it's not available on most platforms. And YouTube TV, it's not like Netflix or Amazon Prime where you kind of just sort out and pick and choose which movie you want. On YouTube TV, as far as I know, you have to already know this title to actually put it in and actually watch it. And even looking this title up on Blu-ray.com, nothing comes up for even the Spanish import Blu-rays unless you type it in Spanish. So kind of a shame that this movie doesn't exist on Blu-ray, or at least exists but doesn't have English subtitles. I hope at some point, Criterion is able to include this in their Blu-ray physical media run, because it's a great title that I would love to own. Now, looking at all of these titles that I've mentioned, I thought number one has to be something that's really difficult to get a hold of, and that is Raise the Red Lantern by Zhang Yimou. This is a film that's directed by a pretty big director, I'd say. He did Hero, The House of Flying Daggers, a really underrated Shadow from not too long ago. It's a film that's not available anywhere. Not available on Blu-ray. There is no Blu-ray import. There is no streaming service that shows this movie. You can't rent this movie. You can't buy this movie. It doesn't exist. The only way to actually own this movie physically is to go to your local library and see if they have it on DVD. Of course, you can purchase a DVD of it, or you can scour the 7 seas and get a pirated version of it, hoping that it has decent subtitles that actually keep up with the movie. It's an interesting film because it's like critiquing the degradation of women in China in the 1920s, and it's just a stunning cinematography, really great performances. And as per usual, Zhang Yimou makes beautifully looking films. His cinematography is always on point, and it's a film I would love to own on Blu-ray, but doesn't have that Blu-ray release, doesn't have any real release at all, even digitally. That's something I think, it's a movie that's going to be forgotten over time. It's not available anywhere. With a movie not being available anywhere, it really just gives it that much of a harder chance to ever be picked up by anyone. Looking at my Letterboxd account, there's not too many people that have actually seen this movie. I hope one day this movie does get some Blu-ray treatment. I'm not even talking about a 4K run. At this point, we're being really spoiled with 4K releases, but it'd be really nice to get just a Blu-ray run of this. With a film like this, not even being able to digitally see that is already insane to me. It's a movie that's kind of being buried. With that, those are my top 10 picks. I know there's a lot more movies that I didn't mention. I tried to pick older movies. If you have any movies that you think should be on Blu-ray that are kind of stuck on DVD or on streaming, please do comment your thoughts down below. I'm curious what other people are interested in owning on Blu-ray. I'll probably be releasing another type of video like this because there's so many other titles that don't have proper Blu-ray releases in the United States, that is. Some of these titles are a bit newer, so I held back this time, and that'll be for another video. And there's some more obscure titles, but nonetheless, movies I would love to own on Blu-ray, and I think they should get proper releases. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for watching this video. Please do give your support down below by hitting that thumbs up, that subscription button down below, and I will see you guys in a later video.